Okay, let's jump into part two, which they get into the long turn.
Okay.
So picture this. You're sitting in the exam room, and I'm the examiner. I'm about to give you this topic card.
I'm imagining it, yeah.
Okay, the topic is, describe a countryside area that you have been to. You should say,
Okay.
where is it,
Okay.
when and why you went there,
Uh-huh.
who you went there with, and explain how you felt about it.
All right, let me think for a sec.
Take your time.
Okay, I think I'm ready.
Okay.
So the countryside I want to talk about is Shrimangal, which is in Bangladesh.
Okay.
It's in the northeast part, and it's really well known for having these amazing tea gardens and just beautiful nature everywhere.
Sounds nice.
It is. I went last year with my family. It was during the winter holidays, and we all just really wanted a break from the city.
I bet.
Oh, totally. So we spent 3 days there just exploring. We went to all the tea states, of course.
Nice.
We took walks in Lalachara National Park and even spent some time by Madhopur Lake. It was just a really nice time with my parents and siblings. We all loved how peaceful it was, the fresh air, the views. It was great.
Oh, that sounds so relaxing.
Yeah, we all came back feeling really refreshed. It was the perfect escape from Dhaka, all the noise and the pollution.
I can imagine. So that was great. Now let's say you were going for a Band 9 score.
Okay.
How would you talk about the same thing, but like even better?
Okay, so for a Band 9, I'd say something like this. I want to describe Munnar, which is in Kerala, India. It's up in the hills, and it's famous for its tea plantations, like seriously breathtaking views. And the hills are always misty, and the weather's so cool and fresh.
Oh, wow.
I went there 2 years ago with some friends.
Nice.
It was during monsoon season, actually.
Wow.
We wanted a weekend getaway just to relax and be surrounded by nature.
I bet.
And it was perfect for that. So the tea gardens were amazing, of course. Everything was so green. We did some trekking through the hills, saw a bunch of waterfalls, and even went to Araviculam National Park. We were so lucky we saw some rare animals there.
That's awesome.
And we even got to try some of that fresh tea right from the plantation.
Oh, I bet that was good.
Oh, it was the best. The whole place just felt so peaceful and serene. I mean, the nature was amazing. It was such a beautiful place, a truly unforgettable experience. I felt like I could really reconnect with nature and just recharge.
Wow. Okay, both of those answers were good.
Yeah.
Very well organized, and you gave lots of detail, but like you said,
Yeah.
there are little things that make the second one even better.
Right. The little things make all the difference, especially if you're aiming for that top score.
Exactly. So let's move on to part 3 now, which
Yeah.
is the follow-up questions.
Okay.
These are where they kind of dig a little deeper
Yeah.
into the topic, and they really want to see, your opinions, your thoughts, all that.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right, first question. What are some of the key differences between the city and the countryside?
Let me think.
Okay.
For a Band 8 answer, I'd probably say the city is usually really busy and noisy, and there are people everywhere. Tons of buildings and tons of traffic. And then the countryside is way more peaceful and quiet, with more nature, like trees and rivers and stuff.
Okay, very clear and simple.
Yeah.
Now, how about a Band 9 answer?
For a Band 9, I'd probably say something like, cities, well, they're known for being fast-paced. There are lots of people and everything is modern. You have more access to things like specialized healthcare and a lot more choices for education. But the countryside is more relaxed, more open space, and it just feels more peaceful, It's hard to find that in a city.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It's like the Band 9 answer goes deeper than just the obvious stuff.
Exactly.
Okay, let's try another one. What are some advantages and disadvantages of living in the countryside? Tough one.
A Band 8 answer might be something like, well, it's peaceful and the air is fresh, way less pollution than the city, but there aren't as many jobs.
Yeah.
And it's harder to find good schools and hospitals sometimes.
Okay, that makes sense. Now for Band 9.
Okay, so a Band 9 answer might be more like, some of the big benefits are the clean air and that the cost of living is usually lower, plus it's just a more peaceful place to live. But you have to think about the downsides, too. Like, sometimes it's hard to find really good health care or education, and there might not be as many job opportunities. And sometimes the infrastructure isn't as good, so you have to weigh those things out.
That's a good point. So it's not just about the good stuff, right?
Right. It's about seeing the whole picture.
I'm getting the hang of this.
You are?
What kind of people do you think would like living in the countryside?
A Band 8 answer might be something like, well, people who like peace and quiet would love it.
Yeah.
They want to be closer to nature, and a lot of retired people choose to live there, too.
Makes sense.
Now, a Band 9 answer would be more like people who really value peace and quiet and who love nature and just want a slower pace of life.
Okay.
Those are the types who would really enjoy it. That could be like retirees who just want to relax.
Uh-huh.
or families who want their kids to grow up in a healthier environment.
Yeah.
It's really about what you value, I guess.
So it's not just who, but why, right?
Exactly.
Okay, this is fun. Do people mostly go to the countryside just to visit, or do they move there for good?
Okay. So a Band-Aid answer could be most people just go to relax and enjoy the scenery. They're on vacation.
Yeah.
But some people move there because they want a quieter life.
Okay, that makes sense.
A Band 9 answer would probably be a lot of people just go for short trips or holidays to escape the stress of the city and enjoy nature for a bit. But some people actually move there permanently.
Really?
Yeah, they're drawn to the peacefulness and maybe the lower cost of living.
That's interesting. So it's like they're not just saying travel, they're being really specific.
Yeah, that's a good point. Using more precise language makes a big difference.
Okay, I'm entered to see the pattern here. Let's do another one. Do you think most people would rather live in a big city, or would they prefer the countryside?
Ooh, tough one. A Band 8 answer might be, well, most people prefer big cities because there are more jobs.
Makes sense.
And, it's easier to find things like schools and hospitals, but there are people who like the peacefulness of the countryside.
Yeah, for sure. What about Band 9?
For a Band 9, I might say, a lot of people are drawn to cities because of the jobs,
Okay.
better education and all the modern stuff. But then some people actually prefer the countryside.
Okay.
They like the peace and quiet, and maybe it's cheaper to live there. Plus, it can be healthier.
It's interesting that you're not saying, like, most people prefer one or the other. You're saying there are reasons for both.
That's a good point. You have to be balanced and show you understand both sides.
It shows you're really thinking about it. Okay, last question. Do people in your country enjoy hiking?
A Band 8 answer might be, well, in Bangladesh, it's not that common.
No.
There aren't that many mountains or hills. But some people go hiking in places like Bandarban. For a Band 9 answer, I'd say, hiking is actually really popular in India. There are so many beautiful trails, especially in Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand. People love it because it's adventurous, they can be close to nature, and it's good exercise.
It seems like the Band 9 answers always give more specific examples,
Yeah, that's true. They make the answers more interesting.
and they show you really know what you're talking about. Okay, that was the last question for part 3. You were an awesome test taker.
Thanks. I tried my best.
It was really cool to hear the differences between Band 8 and 9.
Yeah, those little things can really make a big difference.
I think our listeners are getting a good idea of what it takes to get a high score. So what's the biggest thing you learned from all this?
I think the most important thing is it's not enough to just answer the question. You have to show them you really understand the topic.
Yeah.
Use good vocabulary, good grammar, and be clear and engaging.
You nailed it. But we're not done yet. In part 2 of this deep dive, we're going to really analyze those differences and break down the specific language and strategies that can help you get that higher score. So stay tuned.
Can't wait. Welcome back to our IELTS deep dive.
So we heard those Band 8 and Band 9 answers, but
Yeah.
I want to break them down. What makes those Band 9 answers so special?
Right, because those Band-Aid answers were pretty good.
They were good, but,
Yeah,
we want to aim for that top score.
that's right. We want that Band 9.
Exactly. So let's go back to part 2 when you were describing that countryside place. What really stood out to you in that Band 9 answer about Mannar?
Well, the first thing I noticed was how vivid the language was. Like, instead of just saying tea gardens,
Right.
I said things like breathtaking tea plantations and lush greenery and rolling hills covered with tea gardens.
You really painted a picture with your words. I felt like I was right there with you.
Exactly, and that's what the examiners are looking for. They want you to create a real experience for them.
It's not just about the information.
No, it's about bringing it to life.
And you did that with all those details too, like when you mentioned Araviculum National Park
Yeah,
and sipping that fresh tea right from the plantation.
it's all about those details.
It makes it feel so much more real, like you actually experienced it.
Exactly. It shows you have a connection to the place.
Like you're not just reading from a guidebook.
Right.
Okay, so let's shift gears to part 3, the follow-up questions. I was really impressed with how you used such complex sentences in those Band 9 answers.
Oh, yeah.
Like when we were comparing the city, have a countryside, the Band 8 answer was good,
Yeah.
but the Band 9 answer took it to a whole new level.
Well, I tried to use more sophisticated language.
You did. I remember you used phrases like characterized by,
Yeah.
and on the other hand, that kind of stuff shows you really have control over the grammar.
That's right.
It's not just about using fancy grammar, though.
No, definitely not.
It's about making your ideas sound more interesting and nuanced.
Exactly. You want to show you can handle complex ideas.
Another thing that jumped out at me was your vocabulary. So many different words in those Band 9 answers. Instead of saying fewer jobs, you said limited access to advanced healthcare or education facilities.
Oh, yeah.
Or fewer career opportunities? That's impressive.
Well, you want to show off your vocabulary.
Is that what they call lexical resource? I've heard that term before.
It is. It basically means having a wide range of vocabulary.
Okay.
The more words you know and can use correctly, the better.
So it's not just about memorizing a bunch of big words, right?
No, it's about understanding when to use them and using them naturally.
Right, like having a right tool for the job.
Exactly.
Okay, we talked before about how it's not enough to just state facts. You have to really explain your opinions and back them up.
Right. You can't just say something without explaining why you think that.
Yeah, and do you remember when that was really clear in this simulation?
Yeah, I think it was when you asked about who would prefer living in the countryside.
Oh, yeah.
The Band 8 answer just listed a few types of people.
Uh-huh.
But the Band 9 answer actually explained why those people would choose to live there.
You talked about retirees wanting to relax and families looking for a healthier environment for their kids.
Yeah, it's about giving those reasons, going deeper.
It's the difference between saying the sky is blue and explaining why the sky is blue.
That's a great way to put it. The examiners want to see that you can think critically.
Not just repeat what you've heard.
Exactly.
Okay, so to sum up this part of the deep dive,
Yeah.
we've looked at some key differences between Band 8 and Band 9 answers and why those differences matter so much.
It's all about those subtle things.
Absolutely. Now, are you ready to move on to part 3, where we'll share some tips and strategies for improving your own speaking skills?
I am. Let's do it.
All right, welcome back to our IELTS deep dive.
Okay, so we've talked about the differences between those band scores, but
Yeah,
how can people actually improve their own speaking? What can they do?
that's the big question, right? Like, it's great to hear the examples, but
Yeah.
what are the actual steps to get better?
Well, the most basic advice, and I know it sounds kind of obvious, is practice. The more you speak English, in any situation really, the better you'll get.
Yeah, makes sense. It's like learning an instrument or a sport.
Exactly. You need to put in the time.
But when it comes to IELTS prep, is there anything specific we should focus on?
For sure. First of all, you really got to know the format of the exam
Okay.
and like what the examiners are looking for, fluency, vocabulary, all that.
So know the rules of the game, basically.
Exactly. But it's not just about ticking boxes, you know?
No, for sure.
You really want to be able to communicate your ideas clearly, like you're having a normal conversation.
Yeah, not just reciting something you memorized.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to, be yourself. Let your personality show a little.
So don't be a robot.
No robots.
Okay. Now, vocabulary, that's a big one.
Huge.
We saw how important it is for those high scores. How can we improve our vocabulary? And by the way, what exactly does lexical resource mean? I keep hearing that.
Oh, yeah, good question. Lexical resource just means the range of vocabulary you use.
Okay.
So basically, the more words you know and can use well, the better your lexical resource is. Reading is a great way to improve that.
Yeah, I can see that.
Read anything you enjoy, book, articles, magazines, listen to podcasts too, even watch the news in English, and write down new words and phrases.
So be an active listener and reading, not just passive.
That's it. But don't just write them down and forget them. You got to actually use them.
Oh, okay.
Try to use them when you're speaking. The more you use them, the more natural they'll feel.
Like adding tools to your toolbox.
Exactly.
Okay, now grammar. This can be tough for a lot of people.
It can be, but it doesn't have to be scary. The key is to practice using different grammatical structures.
Okay.
Don't worry about making mistakes. That's how you learn.
Yeah, you got to make those mistakes.
And don't try to use the most complicated grammar you can think of. Just use it accurately.
So accuracy over complexity.
Yes.
Okay, and pronunciation, we can't forget about that.
Right. You have to be clear and easy to understand.
Any tips for that?
Record yourself speaking and listen back. Pay attention to any sounds you find difficult and practice them.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And ask a teacher or a friend for feedback. They can really help.
Okay, so it sounds like getting a high score takes work and the right strategies, but also a good attitude.
Definitely. Don't be afraid to make mistakes and keep practicing.
Persistence is key. Well, this is the end of our IELTS deep dive.
Wow, that went fast.
I know, we talked about the exam, the language, and even some tips to help you improve.
It was a lot of information.
It was, and thanks to everyone for listening and joining us on this journey.
Thanks for having me.
Even if you're not taking the IELTS, these tips can help anyone improve their English.
For sure, communication is key.
So keep practicing, keep learning, and keep exploring the world of language. Until next time, happy speaking.